What is up, down, and sideways, you stunning individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you fine folks for what probably feels like a way too early preseason power ranking, but lo and behold, not even 2 weeks of off-season madness, and the LEC pretty much got these squads finalized. We're waiting on a few check marks with the Fnatic squad. They're, of course, the last squad to kind of lock up that roster, but for the most part, all 12 teams taking part in the LEC Versus split. It's not winter, it's LEC Versus are finalized, and that means time to do some power rankings.
Yes, sir. It used to be way too early power rankings type of situations. Now, almost is just maybe the singular way too early power ranking situation because of how quickly we get underway into the new year, and especially when the off season gets rattled off the way that it does, quickly, mostly sorting itself out and letting the dust settle. As you said, pretty much 1.5, 2 weeks after the season has ended, we are ready to go, getting a lot of these kind of big picture looks at these squads in the LEC. And let's give us our little rundown of how we think they're going to line up before we hit that LEC Versus tournament.
And we're going to do a little different. We're going to go top to bottom this year. So coming in, I think, to no surprise at the number 1 spot, one of 4 squads, by the way, with the same returning 5, which I feel like is a rarity. It's G2 Esports, defending champs, only EU squad at top 8 of Worlds. I think it's pretty unacceptable to put anyone else but them in number 1.
No, you have to put them in this spot after what they have achieved the previous year, and coming in with that momentum of everybody returning and, again, focused on that goal and picking up exactly where they left off. That's why you throw G2 right at the very top right away when you're looking ahead at the LEC. Very much so happy that this is one of those returning, run it back type of situations, because sometimes you'll see that run back because of not exploring other options or whatever type of ones. This certainly was one where I think there was conversations about other options, but then the internal belief in their own players and their own talent that was here, and how you could improve and how you could restructure and reapproach that next year with lessons from this year as that whole group together. I think that is absolutely a big part of why I'm so confident in this G2 repeating and continuing, again, picking up exactly where they left off the last time.
We saw the growth from Skumond and Lebrov to close out the year, and Father Time is sneaking up. How about this is year 5 for Broken Blade on G2, and we're going into year 4 for Hans Sama on this squad.
Pretty crazy how time can just fly by, and again, these are guys that have become icons within the region, icons for the organization in their roles and what they have achieved. I think now really is that time that you take that next step, right? You see so many times you put yourself in a good position and they miss the killing blow. Take the kill shot, make yourself a legend. That's what I want to see from this G2 squad. They've already put themselves back up into that championship tier that they know and their fans are comfortable in. But let's go that next step above. Let's start taking some names on the international stage. That's the goal for this G2 lineup.
And despite being one of the teams not going to the World Championship last year, batting in the 2 spot is Karmine Corp. We have to say the main squad, not KC Blue, because they'll be part of this Versus event. But I know you might say Kiahu over Vladdy is a downgrade heading into this year, but Busio coming into this squad is a mega upgrade in the bot lane. And now with him, Kana, Yike, Kalist, 4 out of the 5 roles on KC, you could probably argue as number 1 in their position in the region.
And it's scary because obviously the mid lane is such a vital position, right? And when you're talking about, doesn't matter what region you are in, there are kings, there are real threats when you're looking in that mid lane position. So it's going to be, yes, I think a little bit of a downgrade initially, but it's one of those ones where you are betting on that that scale of growth to be at a level that isn't going to be matched by any of the other options that you could have found out in those situations. So I think that's one of those ones to keep an eye on for Karmine Corp. But as you said, it's eased. That type of risk, that type of move in the mid lane is negated when you look at what you've got in the bottom lane. Adding Busio to Kalist down there and what you can pair up and how you can build out that threat and power from your bottom lane. Both players there, absolutely a mega mega upgrade for this Karmine Corp squad. And again, a Karmine Corp squad that wasn't all that far out from being at that Worlds type of contention level for the LEC, and certainly has had their little sampling, little hors d'oeuvres, if you will, of the international stage on how some of these events have gone. So certainly looking at them as one of these squads that needs to maintain one of these positions and keep bringing up and keep getting that international experience for your guys in that bottom lane that are going to be your superstars on this team.
And again, Yahoo coming in with a guy like Kana already on the squad who's spent some time in the LEC to help ease that transition for him. Makes us feeling pretty good about KC heading into this year. Still feeling pretty good about Movistar Koi. Again, one of these other squads that are just running it back. You thought maybe Jojo Pyun would get bought out by an LCS team looking to come back, but top to bottom, even the coaching staff all running it back for Koi. And I think that's good to see, because you saw the potential. You saw them able to at least compete against some of the best teams from the LCK and LPL. So just bank on continued growth for this starting five.
Yeah, and I think it is somewhat of a different scenario than when you're looking at the returning five here than the returning five for G2, where I think for G2, you feel like it's exactly going to be picking up where you left off. Let's keep working on our project before we got to submit it again. That type of situation. Got an extension on our deadline. But when you look at this squad for Movistar Koi, a little bit of a different feeling seeing all five return, and certainly the difference of where the goalposts are going to be for them for this year. I think you're looking, obviously, feeling good about Jojo Pyun as that mid lane, as that guy leading the charge, leading the trash talk and everything else that comes with it. But you're also, I think, looking for more consistency out of your other factors on this team. And I'm looking at Mirwin and you're looking at Supa, right? Guys that did take good, big steps for the squad last year, but need to continue those big steps, those improvements, and seeing those improvements on a more regular basis is going to be the difference of a Movistar Koi that just hangs out in this type of territory, fluctuating power up and power down in this zone, or a Movistar Koi that can truly cement themselves as one of the top options within the region.
And you know that both Koi and Karmine Corp, they got that taste of success, capturing some early splits in 2025, but with so much young talent and potential on the squad, they're going to be extra motivated to, again, steal that throne back from the likes of G2 at the top of the LEC. In the 4 spot, yet another squad. It's the same 5 returning, maybe more surprisingly so, because they obviously didn't have the success of the other ones, but GiantX running it back again. The only real big offseason news out of them was that Fnatic really wanted Jun back and were doing their very best to buy him out of their contract, but they keep him. GiantX wanted him paired with Noah, and there's still lots of potential mechanically and individually on this squad, and maybe they can stay as that number 4 team in Europe.
It's one of those ones where you're going to have to see some bounce back performances from individuals to be at a level that is going to be in contention towards the top of the LEC. I think when you're also talking about this squad and really where you can see why they wanted to go back with this returning roster, it's less about, the confidence and positives about this roster as far as going, what are the unknowns outside of our roster and what was going to be available, who was interested, what are reasonable targets, all these things. It seemed like the better option was to stay, to try to improve and keep on this path that you have with this squad. And again, more so as well, that factor that Fnatic wanted Jun to come back after all the commotion and everything that went on to lead him to join GiantX in the first place. And keeping him is that one, keeping away from these teams that are looking to leapfrog, are looking to catch up, are looking to contend with you in the LEC. That has to be where that extra value goes over for a GiantX roster.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you can compare them with Fnatic, who's right behind them in that 5 spot. I think some people, maybe you want Fnatic ahead. And Fnatic, again, it's still primarily rumors with this roster, but looking like Emperos coming in to replace Oscar Rinnan, Razor coming back. We're very confident that Vladdy is coming in to replace, I was going to say Humanoid, but Poby. We've had 2 mid laners since then. Upset also returning, and then Laspa as a Korean support since they could not get Jun to come over. But to me, if this ends up being the same roster, you're still looking at the same issues for Fnatic, and that is Razork probably being the primary shot caller, and then you're just kind of trying to fit in a Korean support where communication is going to be an issue, but macro and game comms are still the issue here.
There's a lot of red flags still coming out about this Fnatic roster as you are looking at it. And yes, there are red flags that were there for the past season that aren't there this time around, but they've been replaced with kind of some different ones. So certainly still that uneasy feeling when you are talking about Fnatic and what the expectations should be for one of these, for a team like this. With players like Vladdy, Upset, and Razork, and again, Razork on his good days, you're expecting this to be a Fnatic team that can push the pace within the LEC, that can be one of these teams, again, in this upper territory that we are talking about. But there are still, again, the down days, the questionable mistakes and just choices that we have seen from Razork throughout the entirety of his career, especially when he has been a marquee player on this Fnatic roster. So that still remains a question mark. And again, we were very much so looking for Humanoid to not be the answer for Fnatic at that point. Poby comes in, the questions around him and everything else, and still relatively okay, decent enough performance individually. But it's one of those ones where I still think that you are betting on the potential of Vladdy being a higher aspect to lift this team up even more. I like that we've moved on from a Skirant in the top side. Nothing too harsh personally in that type of regard, but I think as far as the gameplay and what play style you can bring to this team, it's going to be different without those pieces here and stuff like that. But I still think the familiarity is going to be there in the bottom lane because it's always going to feel like Upset's bottom lane anytime he's there, especially when it's him and a less proven player alongside him. If it was someone else that could maybe be more of a veteran, be more of a commanding experience behind him, you could have had a different feel. It really is just going to be about the Upset show again in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and we've seen him become much more vocal since he was on Karmine Corp. But now you're looking at, Empros is kind of a more carry-oriented top laner, definitely more so than Oscarinin, and Vladdy, we know, is a star in his own right. So I just feel like Razork's going to be tugged all over the map more so than when Fnatic was just gank bot over and over and over again. So I'm not sure a lot of the issues are going to get fixed for Fnatic, even if you think Vladdy is an upgrade, and I do think that as well. Still going to have lots of concerns. Maybe the most exciting and difficult squad to rank on here is the first of the guest invitees. Won 2 out of 3 EU Masters. They're not playing beyond LEC Versus. Los Ratones coming in. It's, again, the same 5 that dominated EU Masters for most of the year, but this is what everyone has wanted to see, them actually competing against LEC talent, and it does feel like, at least for guys like Velia and Crownie at the bare minimum, tryouts for getting onto an LEC team later in the year.
Very much so. The thing that we've all been waiting for. We've always been talking about the LEC. Hey, pick up that phone, call Cadril, get on there, make sure it happens. And here we are. It is happening, albeit without Cadril attached to it. It is a different situation. It will be Yamato Cannon returning to the LEC stage to be the head coach of the situation. Obviously can't have co-streaming and everything going on if you are the actual head coach on... all that aside.
It's where the fan base is. He's got to co-stream these.
Yes, but Los Ratones steps in with those 5 players as you're talking about, and I think a lot of excitement to see how they stack up against the talent, against the preparation and strategies of the LEC, and how you handle a grueling schedule that it should be as far as being at that top tier within the Europe, as far as this competition. Very much so. Excited to see what Los Ratones holds. That being said, I think this is a very cautious, optimistically cautious position to throw them in at this point, knowing what type of threats are going to be there and challenges that await them, but still giving them enough credit for what they have accomplished, what they have shown you they are capable of, and what can be possible. This is absolutely one of the teams that you can't write out, of course, in one of these situations, but absolutely one of the ones where I want to be cautious with my optimism for what they could do and how they could shake up the LEC.
Yeah, and this spot here is kind of banking on them refinding focus. We saw when they were losing in EU Masters. Again, they lost, 2 best of 5s, like all year, but the mental was a bit boom at the end. So seeing them, they're going to lose matches. They're not going to steamroll through the LEC. So seeing if they have that mental fortitude to bounce back is really why we have them this high, is banking on them being able to do that. There's a decent chance the boys get completely usurped by a resurgent MVP level run from Humanoid, reunited with his buddy Karzi on Team Vitality. That's the only change coming in here. And I know GiantX was pretty good in his own right, but Vitality, I'm sure Humanoid stock is a little bit low, so probably a much cheaper contract. And let's face it, he'll be looking to reprove himself.
It's a flat out 50-50 at this point. It's 50 that it's either going to be continuing that slope, that steep decline in performance and contributions from Humanoid, or it will be that rebound. It will be a rebirth, renewal of his skills in the mid lane. And if that comes through with the pieces that Vitality does have and how they worked together last year, you can see a path for this Vitality team to be one of the playoff squads, to be one of the teams that will matter within the LEC. You are banking a heck of a lot, though, on that Humanoid bounce back and the avenues for it. I don't see it coming through. Call me a hater, a non-believer, whatever the heck it is. I just don't see it working out this time around for Vitality, and I think that this is one of those teams that, again, is somewhat on that bubble of just finding, one or two more extra positive things here in a game that is leading them to win out more often than losing. But you're just not at that point, and I think gambling it all on Humanoid and him having that bounce back, reuniting with Karzi, all whatever, I don't see it coming through for this Vitality team.
Unless they get an absolute vibes buff with him coming over. It does feel like I would have liked to have seen GiantX continue to develop, because Vitality was a team that were perennially dark horses in the playoffs throughout 2025. The newer squad I'm actually kind of excited to see is Navi Natis Vincere, with basically an entirely new lineup from kind of bringing over what was Rogue. Now you're getting Mainter in the top lane, rookie from KCB. Paris is an upgrade over the role-swapped Malrang coming in. Han Somdi's the only guy returning. And then, of course, Poby over Larson is the maybe main excited one. But this team's hard to grade because we haven't seen so many of these guys on the big stage. But this is a potential, maybe even top 5 team, top 4 on the higher end.
It's crazy because there is just, again, really that uncertainty when you start entering into this territory of the LEC on what performances you're going to get, how long, if you do get good performances, it can last type of situation. For me with Navi, again, one, excited that they are stepping in. I think this is absolutely going to be a better partnership, a better organization to be with than what we had seen from the last 2+ years of the Rogue experiment and how that worked out and played out in the LEC. And frankly, I'm excited to see Poby continuing his LEC journey here. It might not be with the prestige of a Fnatic organization, but kind of removed from some of those expectations, some of that pressure of a established fan base and everything else. Starting a new project with Navi, I absolutely am very hopeful that we see the very best out of Poby this year.
And the complete opposite, a new breath of fresh air organization with new faces. We go to SK Gaming with the trio of Wonder, Leader, and Mickey, who wanted to play together no matter what. And Skeens was already on the squad. He returns, and then they rounded out with young, hyped-up rookie AD carry Yopa, he's only 22, but been waiting a couple years to kind of get this big promotion. And obviously, the much bigger question mark than a rookie starting AD carry is what form are these veterans in, especially Leader and Wonder, who didn't play it all last year.
I hate this because I want to be all on board. I want to be a fan of this one, and I think if they do find success, this is going to be the most fun group to watch in the LEC. No question about it if they do find success. That's if they can find it. That's going to be the big question for me because, again, as you laid out, you are looking at these veteran players, Wonder, Mickey. There is going to be some question as far as what your competition level, more so towards, I think, Wonder, due to the time away from the scene, from a starting position. That's going to be one of the questions. And as well, Leader in the mid lane is certainly as well a double big question mark, I think, as well for this team. We have seen trial runs. We've seen experiments of him starting on the LEC main stage, and I don't think it's ever translated into all that impressive performances or all that much success for any of these organizations that have run through it before. maybe this time around on SK is different.
Maybe it's different, and if we believe hard enough, maybe it will come through. But at least they're outside of the bottom 3 of the LEC coming in. We got Team BDS in the 10 spot, where it's just a new bot lane coming in Paddock and Trimby. Again, I don't know how the communication's going to be on that squad, but the upper side all coming back, and it was a quick bow out in playoffs 3-0 for BDS, so still not a ton of faith of them going forward. And then Karmine Corp Blue, you might say, this team just won EU Masters. How are you going to have them so low? They should get some respect, be ahead of Los Ratones. Only Yakino is returning from that roster. Everybody else is spread across the LEC.
Yeah, what a crazy points to talk about here towards the bottom. When you are looking at BDS, yes, I think a team that has struggled with its identity without Adam, with Adam back in the line, whatever the heck it was, this hasn't worked out. And I think obviously looking at that bottom lane, as much as I am hopeful for Trimby's return to the LEC to be successful, I don't see it having the same firepower that Ice was able to bring when he was there for BDS. So looking at a downgrade in that regard in my eyes. And then, yes, KC Blue, you would be all sorts of excited and optimistic about this opportunity. It very much isn't the KC Blue that earned this opportunity in this type of situation. So it is going to be very much so a different set of expectations and different look for that team as they head into this LEC split.
And obviously a little bit of that is just the format of this LEC Versus is you win a U Masters and you guys get promoted to Tier 1. That's usually how things play out. And then finally, Team Heretics, you mentioned Ice. Yes, that's probably an upgrade over Flacked. But then the rest of this roster, I'm just not seeing the firepower to compete.
Nope, I don't see it either. I don't think that this is going to be a real experiment where, oh my God, all of a sudden we've got a win condition that truly has the power in Ice in the bottom lane, and we can kind of formulate and organize. I just don't see it holding up enough against what will be the matches, the counter matches, and in all these other ones as we've outlined in some of these other teams ahead. I don't see it for this Heretics squad, and it's unfortunate because I think this is a Heretics that has frankly floundered all their time since joining the LEC.
Now bookmark this video when Karmine Corp Blue wins the whole thing and runs it back so you can prove us all wrong. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out as always, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.